Hey everybody, welcome to the pre-show, the nerdy gritty pre-show. Oh wait, hold on. Let's make sure my microphone's working because for whatever reason, okay, no, it's working. Good. Sometimes OBS just hasn't been picking up my microphone sometimes, and I will just have to unplug it and plug it back in, and it's weird and obnoxious.
Yep.
So, yeah. Anyway, hey Fox, how are you?
Uh, pretty good. Pretty
Good.
good. Bit of a rough morning with my son. He likes to hit. And it's not
Ah,
getting his way.
that's tough.
The good news, it's like it's good slash bad news. It's weird news, I guess. It's only myself and my wife that he'll hit.
Hmm.
Only his parents. He does not hit anybody else. He's pretty gentle with everybody. Even when like another kid does something he doesn't like, generally will just like look at me and like want me to do something about it, which is the right way to do it.
He'll look
And
at you and you will feel him saying, "You need to do something about this or you're next." Like
I can't hit this kid, but can you? And I say,
so
unfortunately, no.
I went with my wife today to the we have a Goodwill bins in our area, which is like after Goodwill doesn't sell stuff, they eventually just send it to a big warehouse where they put them out in these big old bins and
Mhm.
you can then
Rummage.
rummage through and whatnot. And as I was rummaging, I found
Oh, very cool.
a case full of Bakugan. So
Oh, I thought those were dice for a second, but you have
no, they're
Bakugan.
Bakugan, where you that's like an old card game that had a really I consider genuinely fun element. I never got into it, but we have a mutual friend Robo Sensei who did, and
He was way into it.
yeah, and you play cards, but when you play them, like when you play a Bakugan card, there was a board that you had set up with your opponent that with little magnets on it, and you would roll one of these guys, and depending on how it landed, which way it was pointing, or whatever else, like what magnet it landed on, it would
Hmm.
open up into like this a cool the ball would open up like a cool little monster thing, like a
Oh,
robot
neat.
or whatever, and that was part of the game. Anyway, I just found a ton of them at Goodwill,
Are
and
any are any of them valuable?
so I hit up Robo Sensei and I'm like, hey, I because it was by the pound, this was probably 75 cents for this
So
entire thing. I asked Robo Sensei, hey, do any of these have value? And he pointed out three or four that he's like, these ones, yes, they probably have some value to them. I looked up one was like $15. Says the rest of them, you can probably get $3 or $4 for them, a few dollars for them. So this whole thing, I would guess, is probably worth $20, $30 is my guess.
nice.
And I got it for about
Bargain.
75 cents. So I'm real happy with that. So, which brings me to my pre-show question, which is, what is one of like the coolest collectible things that you've ever just found by accident? Something that you just like were out and about or at a yard sale or whatever else, and you found you're like, dang, this is
Mm.
a Action Comics number whatever with Superman first appearance, whatever else.
If you find an Action Comics #1,
It's not number one. What Superman first appearance is Action Comics? I'm gonna find out right now. Action
yes, it is. It's #1.
Comics. It is number one.
Mm-hmm. You're thinking of
Superman.
Wolverine was like Hulk 181.
Right.
Spider-Man was fantasy, Amazing Fantasy #15.
It
But
is number
Action
one. Yeah.
Comics #1 is Superman.
All right. Batman first appearance is Detective Comics number 27.
Mm.
That's what I was thinking was
Let's see.
27.
Collectible thing. I didn't buy it. I didn't want to spend the time looking up to see if it was actually valuable because it was big. But there was a very large binder. It was at the like, not Goodwill, but um, Salvation Army in Joplin, in Missouri. They had it. It was a very large binder. I'm saying like 2 or 3 inches thick, full, chock a block full of Beanie Baby trading cards. And I would go there on a regular basis because for reasons, and I would
For,
look at it every
reasons.
time. I would look at it every time and be like, you know what? There's probably somebody out there who would find this valuable,
Absolutely, yes.
but I was not willing to do the work to connect with that person.
Finding that person and then getting money from that person and whatnot. That's the
Yes.
challenge right there. That's where things get complicated.
Right.
For me,
Find it.
before Magic became very popular, it was very easy to go online on like eBay or whatever and find uh 10,000 Magic cards for $5, or
Oh, yeah.
my son moved out and here's his Magic collection, just trying to get rid of it, entire thing $20 or whatever else.
Right.
And I bought several of those, and that's why I have probably 15, 20,000 Magic cards now. I later on ended up with Sliver Queen, which is like a $300 card, Sliver Legion, Sliver Overlord, a bunch of the slivers. Mishra's Bauble is a card that went up to like $60 at one point, and I had 10 of them. Sensei's Divining Top was another card that shot up in value that I had like 10 or 15 of, and just going in and trading in a bunch of that stuff was super fun. Like knowing just how much money. Overall, I am easily in the positives for my Magic, value to purchase ratio there. So that's a big one for me, is just getting to swap out those Magic cards in that way. Anything else? That's all you got?
I don't think I've ever found anything that's just like, this is the thing I want, and it's also incredible. Like, I mean, no.
When I used to go to Goodwill a little more often just for funsies, we would do glassware. And
Oh, really?
me and my friends, we wouldn't there wasn't a lot of resale that we did, but it would be something like, because, I'm like into red wine. You can see I got wine bottles back here or whatnot. It would be, a $100 decanter that for Goodwill, it's one of 30 glass decanters they have. And so it's got a $5 label on it.
They don't care.
Yeah. And so just things like that. So I found some like collectible glassware that they're root beer mugs that came on this wooden hanger, and they were glass with wooden handles. And they looked like barrels in these brown glass handles. And I looked it up, and it's a collectible that was worth like $300 that I picked up, and I still have somewhere in my house. It used to be on display, but now, if you guys don't know, I'm also super into glass root beer bottles. I have like 100 of different ones that I've tasted and whatnot. So yeah, things like that. Random things. I don't know. I like the idea, and I know one of our fans, Farrago Fox, says the same thing. I like the idea of going to yard sales or to a Goodwill and finding that valuable thing. It feels like treasure hunting almost,
A little bit.
I'm like Indiana Jones, is what I'm trying to get at here.
What I'm trying to say is, I'm an amazing adventurer.
Yes, we're the same thing. Me and Lara Croft, we
I
should
like to go to Goodwill and
hang out.
punch Nazis.
I mean, I would like to go anywhere and do that, really. I mean, no, I would like to go.
You can tell. You can tell they're not. You don't have to talk to them. Sometimes you just know.
You just know. Usually it's the bald head with the swastika tattooed on it. That really gives it away, but.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Hey,
Obvious.
there was another thing I wanted to talk about that I can't remember. Oh, it was Baldur's Gate 3. Part of me is turning on Baldur's Gate 3.
Turning.
And
Why is
most
that?
of it is the camera.
It is a little frustrating.
I hate the camera in Baldur's Gate 3. It not only chooses like the weirdest angles to automatically go to, but it's not a typical like it sits behind your character, that third person view of like, and you just kind of can tilt left, right, up, down, whatever else. It's more of a free floating thing. I mean, because it's a CRPG, so it's much more of a
Right,
computer
it's
based
more of
thing.
yeah.
And trying to control it on a controller is the worst, and it's very upsetting. And then another thing that's more my fault than the game's fault, but also a little bit of the game's fault. There are so many rules because it's D&D. It's literally D&D.
Right.
It's hard to keep track of an entire party's worth of things going on. And so it'll be things
Yes.
like I will cast a spell with a 30% chance of success and succeed. Yes! Oh, that felt so good. Not realize that it took concentration, do something else with that character the next turn, lose the spell entirely, and be like, I wish that there was a
Yes.
pop-up that just said, you were concentrating on that spell, you will lose that spell if you did this, are you sure you want to do it?
Yeah, I've talked to you about this. I do wish that I could just have I control my created character mode and everybody else is on, is AI, because it's some things that, like, when you play D&D, it's not the fault of the game. I can't blame it. But when I'm playing Baldur's Gate, I'm like, well, if this were me playing D&D, I would want to jump up on this thing and jump off and do this, and I very much could. I would have the option. Maybe I wouldn't succeed, but I have the option. And this, because it'd be so difficult to have that much unlimited freedom in a game, you just can't do a lot of those
Right.
things. And so it feels I have an unfair feeling of limitation.
I
It
agree with
feels
that too.
it feels very constrictive, even though compared to other games like this, it is extremely like wide open with what you can do. It's amazing.
Right.
It's why, like, a lot of the for me it was this should be game of the year because of, in the context of, compared to other games that have tried this. Like, that was a big caveat. Like, it's compared to other games that have tried this, it blows everything out of the water. It is
Right.
amazing, but it still feels restrictive when you're used to playing D&D for 15 years.
I exactly that. And you're right. It's not fair to the game itself
Yeah.
because like there was a time in which I had a balcony that I was wanting to go down and I had rope and I just wanted to tie the rope and climb down the balcony.
Right.
No other game would I think that of. There's no other game that I would think to myself, I should be able to just tie this and climb down because games are inherently restrictive in that way. This game is so freeing that I feel like I should have that ability and get frustrated that I do not. And again, it's unfair to the
Yes.
game.
Right.
But speaking of AI, this is the other legitimate frustration that I have with it. Is it has happened more than once that my character has been walking around, rolled a perception check, succeeded. Hey, there's a trap over there,
Hmm.
and then one of my characters will walk right onto it,
Yes.
and I'm like, no, I heard my voice in game announce it to my people.
It's right there.
There's a trap right there, and then just because my character turned a certain direction, the AI made the characters walk behind me in this
Already
way
walks in a certain formation.
to walk directly onto a trap. And it's like,
Yeah.
come on, guys. We should be able to. That doesn't seem difficult to me. Don't,
Yes.
when you have realized trap, make AI not walk on trap.
Yes.
I don't actually know. I'm not a game dev, but that feels like something that I should be able to just be like, hey,
It
no.
became my policy that if I recognize there's a trap, I will disarm it as soon as possible.
Yeah,
If-
I've started
if I
doing
have
that
to,
now.
like, every single time, just to take it out of the equation entirely.
To be very, very clear, though, it's a really fun game.
It's a great game.
When I say I'm turning on it, I mean it's like a 9 out of 10 now instead of a 10 out of 10. Like
Instead of one of the
it's,
yes.
it's real fun.
The funny thing is, you're only turning on it because you're playing it so much.
Yes,
You only learn those little details that you don't like when you love it so much that you play it a lot.
Yep.
Like, it's just the
absolutely.
downfall.
Well,
It's
and again,
you know, a
because
relationship.
it's so freeing and you expect so much from it that when it doesn't give you 110%, you get upset. You know, it's just, yeah. All right. Hey, should we podcast?
Yes.
Hey, chat, just going to let you know right now that we are going to start podcasting. Hang on. See, this is a flaw in my new thing. Hang on a second. Got to lean over to type in podcast. There we go. In our podcast, we do syndicate this on YouTube podcasts after the fact. And so we like to make sure that those listening later at the time don't get half of a conversation, so we don't actually interact with the chat during the podcast. But post podcast, we do come back and have a conversation with everybody in the chat. So go ahead and post things in the chat as if we were talking like normal. Then afterward, we're going to go back and we're going to talk about it. I don't know how much post podcast we're going to get this time, to be honest, because your son might wake up from his nap. And me, I plan on taking my wife out for lunch for Valentine's Day. So just some things there. But with that being said, let me pause the YouTube, or not the YouTube, the Amazon Music here real quick. All right. I believe you have the pre-intro this time.
Sure.
All right. Let's get started here. In 3, 2.
Today in the Nerdy Gritty, with Crunchyroll taking away people's copies. Nope, got to start.
Yeah, let's try. Let's think that one again here. Oh, hey, G Creature, welcome. We're about to start a podcast, just so you know, G Creature. But welcome, glad you're here.
All right, ready to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Today in the Nerdy Gritty, what's the future of physical media?
One more world disappears inside it. Just another hopeless addict. What that makes a man instead. If the drums don't get you, the guitars will.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Nerdy Gritty, where we delve deep into the details of pop culture. I now own everything that you used to own, and am willing to sell it back to you because I'm Dez.
And I'm sorry, but when we switched to a physical podcast, you lost your copy of Fox.
He's not here anymore. Sorry, your copy of Fox is gone now. It used to be Star Fox, and now we're replacing it with Kyle Fox. And
you didn't actually you didn't own a copy. You were
leasing.
You had the rights to use the official copy.
Exactly. Yes. There was an idea of you possibly being able to think about.
Hey, happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Before we get to what I actually want to talk about, do you think, you know how there's Galentine's Day, and it's the idea of, like, you know, women just
hanging out, supporting each other,
and supporting each other without the need for romance.
Yeah.
Do you think we should do Palentine's Day?
I mean, I'm willing to play Pal World right now if you want to play Pal World. We'll Palentine's it up right now.
Well, yeah, that's the problem with saying that now. But it's like the guy version. That's the. We need to do Palentine's Day.
Okay.
Because guys, you know, gotta support guys gotta support guys. So why don't we do that version? You know, something to think about.
So I mean, there's someone in the chat when I was saying every day can be Palentine's Day, and I agree with that.
Every day could be Galentine's Day.
That's also true. A day to specifically celebrate that. Isn't that Friendsgiving though?
No, that's in gender. That's non-gender or sex specific.
So Palentine's and Galentine's Day is gender specific. What would be like a non-binary?
Well, what I'm saying is Galentine's Day is typically women. So I'm going
right
with the men version. But yeah, we need a non-binary day.
I think that's the entire month of June, right?
Well, no. That's anyway, I've just been thinking about that. Anyway.
Just a quick side note on that then.
Sure.
Marvel Snap is doing something right now where if you play, like if you have couples in play at the same time, they get bonuses for it for the next 2 weeks. That's so awesome. If you have like Dr. or Mr. Fantastic and Sue Storm, Invisible Woman at the same time, they both get a buff from one another, or Vision and Scarlet Witch and things like that. So
that's
yeah, great. It's cool. Anyway, hey, go ahead.
Hey, but it is Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Let's talk about our favorite, our first, our whoever gaming crushes.
Let's talk about gaming crushes. Sorry.
Yeah, that doesn't really work with the song's melody. But yeah, gaming crushes. Steve, Dez, whatever your name is.
It's both. It's okay.
Let me see if I can guess who your original gaming crush was. I think I already know.
Original might be tough. Hang on, let me think here for a sec. About it. But as far as like actual crush, I think I know who it is.
Yeah, I mean, crush is a fluid term. It can
Right.
be whatever you want. Here's my guess. It was Tifa, wasn't it?
She was probably second.
Oh, dang it. Who was first?
Lara Croft.
Oh, that makes sense.
Tomb Raider came out
Okay.
before Final Fantasy.
You must be psyched that the Tomb Raider remaster came out today, aren't you?
Because here's the thing I already forgot her name. Lara did not stick with me the way Tifa has.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I still love Tifa. Somewhere deep down in my heart, I still think that someday we could be together. I love
Sure.
my wife very, very much, but if Tifa Lockhart walked in that door right now,
Goodbye, family.
goodbye, family.
It was nice knowing you.
I, like, firmly, every time I play Final Fantasy VII and in Rebirth, am absolutely going Cloud Aerith, like Cloud and Aerith end up together. And the reason I have always done that is because Tifa and I belong together. And so Cloud and Aerith can be together.
Get outta here, Cloud.
Yeah, get out of here with your nonsense, Cloud. Nobody wants you here and your messed up brain clone or whatever.
I do know for a fact that you also have had a real life crush, celebrity crush on Rachel E. Cook.
Yes.
How
And-
much are those related? Because she did the voice.
0%. When I found out, this was because I had a crush on Rachel Lee Cook, beginning with Tom and Huck, the like 90s movie
Wow.
that she was like, it was like her first big movie ever. Same thing with like Kirsten Dunst. I had a crush on her when I first saw Interview with the Vampire when I was way too young to be watching Interview with the Vampire. And Christina Ricci in Casper.
Oh,
Casper.
I watched Casper a lot.
You can very much get an idea of the type of the girl I'm attracted to by Christina Ricci and Casper and Kirsten Dunst in Interview with the Vampire being my first crushes. Anyway, this is a really weird conversation that we're having now, but I'm all in on it already. So
No, it's Valentine's Day. We're talking.
That's true.
We're
That's
talking
true.
about love.
Yeah.
We're talking about crushes.
So Rachel Lee Cook, Tom and Huck, Tifa Lockhart, in the very first, when it first dropped in Final Fantasy VII, when Rachel Lee Cook first voiced her in Advent Children, I was like, whoa! So, yeah.
That's great.
What about you?
That's great. Well, can you guess?
I'm gonna guess.
Remember, I'm younger than you.
Right,
so
right.
Probably the next generation.
Right. No. So I'm gonna guess it's dang it, what the crap is her name from Final Fantasy X? Not Luna. Dang it, what's her name?
Yuna.
Yuna. Is it Yuna?
I'd say you're pretty correct. That's the first one I remember.
Yeah. That's what I'm going with as well for me.
It's either so it was. I mean, it's kind of similar to 7, where there's Yuna and Riku in 10, and they're both like different personalities.
Yeah.
Kinda like Aerith and Tifa. I mean, obviously that's just the thing you do when you have a cast of characters. You
Right.
wanna create different things. But I'd say probably Yuna in Final Fantasy X. And I think I win because Final Fantasy X is better than 7. So
It's
overall-
true. You can tell by the movies that they've made, the spin-offs they've made, the remake that's coming out of it, all those things that the long-time beloved, how everybody loves it so much that, oh, wait, none of those things are happening. That's all Final Fantasy VII.
People loving something is not the same as it being better. That's all I have to say about that.
Define better then. Isn't that exactly
My
what better
opinion.
means?
That's what
Just
I think.
because more people think it's of a higher quality doesn't mean it's better.
I can't prove that.
Wait a second. Oh, man.
Well,
Did-
happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
I had a different intro that I was going to do, but now that I'm thinking about it, I'm glad you did this. That's very appropriate because it is Valentine's Day and it saves this for me for next week. But
That's great.
okay, should we move on to news articles?
Yeah, let's talk about some news.
Hey, I've got some pretty fun news here that I'm pretty happy about.
Well, that's good.
I'm on NBC News, of all the places that we usually are not
fake
in.
News. More like fake news.
Disneyland characters and parade cast members launch unionization efforts.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey.
So there are around 1,700 characters and cast members that are like going through the process to unionize for Disneyland. To be clear, there were already people who worked for Disneyland that were members of a union.
Okay.
But it was like, this is a janitorial union and you
Sure.
happen to work for Disneyland, or this is a, so like, but this is
This'll
going
be
to
a
be
Disney specific union.
cast members and characters. If you don't know, chat and listeners, characters are unique because they're the people who actually dress up as and enter the parks as whichever character they're meant to be. And it is a very different job because you are part actor, part improviser, because you have to be this character to everybody. It is really high expectations, high difficulty. So their whole statement is they're trying to make sure, as they're the entertainment cast members, what they call themselves, because it's the parade workers and the characters. It's time for us to come together as a union, use our collective power to ensure that the park is safer, more sustainable place to build careers and share magic with guests from all over the world. So, Disneyland released a statement that said,
Oh, here we go.
we believe that our cast members deserve to have all the facts and the right to a confidential vote that recognizes their individual choices. Disneyland is fully supporting them. Our Walt Disney World colleagues exemplify how you can be pro-Disney and pro-union at the same time. They are saying, this is a 100% concerted effort for unionization, which you usually don't see. And on top of all of this, while Disney may have been struggling in the stocks over the past few years, this did not impact their stocks in any way, shape, or form. In fact, their trades went up a little bit with this announcement. So overall, this is a good thing across the board.
Oh, I mean, it's a good thing, and it's also good that Disney is making the right decision.
Right. Yeah, that's true. It is a good thing. It is a supported thing across the board by investors, by Disney itself, by the union. Like, it's just really cool news to see everyone being like, yeah,
wonderful.
good idea, guys. Yeah.
I mean, it's very, very good. I'm very happy about that.
Yeah.
Hey, did you know that Microsoft is now a Sony crony?
Oh no. Is it because they admitted the loss to the console war? Sony wins the console war?
No, it's because Sony or Microsoft is planning on releasing Microsoft exclusives on Nintendo and PS5.
I don't think they know what exclusive means.
An Xbox Game Pass slowdown might be why I'm, let's see. Sources familiar. This is from The Verge.
Okay.
Sources familiar with Microsoft's plans tell The Verge that the company is getting ready to launch a select number of Xbox games on PS5 and the Switch. Weeks of rumors suggest that Hi-Fi Rush, Sea of Thieves, and even Bethesda titles like Starfield and Indiana Jones, something that hasn't even come out yet, could appear on non-Xbox platforms. The first two games that are set to appear on rival consoles are Hi-Fi Rush and Pentiment, which is an indie game from last year that was
I love
pretty
Pentiment.
beloved by the
Yeah,
people who liked
Pentiment
it.
was great.
By people who played it. According to sources, Microsoft is also currently planning to launch Sea of Thieves on non-Xbox platforms later this year, with other first-party titles also under consideration.
Things like Sea of Thieves is a really good idea, especially if you get the crossplay in there, because that just gives you more people who can play your ongoing game.
More people playing the game that you need supported on
Right. Other than that, man, this is an interesting move on Microsoft's part because this is going to be a testing ground, I think. How successful is this going to be? Which is why it sounds like a lot of smaller indie games.
Yeah, more indier.
Like Hi-Fi Rush and Pentiment, and then of course Indiana Jones, which is literally an indie game.
There's only been a few true indie games.
Yeah. The last time I remember an Indiana Jones game coming out, it was a debacle as to how bad it was. And this was back in the early aughts.
It's been a long time ago, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I don't even remember what it was.
But
Infernal Machine.
Is that what it was?
I think it was Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine. That's the last one I remember. I never played it.
But
yeah, so it definitely seems like they are leaning into just having I would not be surprised, and this might even be something that's come up recently, but if they just lean into, we don't make hardware anymore. Microsoft has a gaming platform and you can play it on your, PC. You can play it on. You just try to find as many platforms to put it on, including PlayStation and Switch.
That sounds like a good idea. It sounds
Yes.
almost like the way that Sega has gone, although Sega's not doing it in a great way. Like they're more just
developing games.
yeah, they're more just the dev now.
Yeah.
But saying, hey, we make games, you can buy those games on other platforms, or you can just subscribe to us and play it whenever you want. Like
Yes.
that
directly
sounds
through.
smart to me. And now that I say it that way, now that I say we are a game, streaming platform, it's not literally streaming, but we're a game streaming platform. You can buy those games on other things, but if you want to just play those games for a monthly fee, come to us directly. I could see that working.
Yeah, and it would just save them the hassle of producing consoles and.
I think
all
that they're
the hardware
done.
that
Like
comes along.
they haven't said it outright, but just from the sounds of all of their comments and whatnot, I think they're pretty done
This
making
might
consoles.
this might be their last. At the same time, like PlayStation has recently said, they're getting like in the latter portion, the final like latter portion of this console cycle already. It's sooner than I expected it to be with the PS5.
It's only been like 2 or 3 years, right?
I don't know. It just feels sooner. I don't.
Yeah,
know.
it feels super soon. Hang on, I want to find that out here.
So it basically is. I mean, usually they try to release around the same time, within a year of each other, and so I wonder if they're just feeling the pressure.
No, PS5 was 2020.
Okay, 4
Wow.
years. I mean, it's the latter portion. It's not like they've announced a new console,
Right.
or whatever.
And usually it's 7-year cycles. So
Something like that.
this is the over the halfway
Okay,
point.
so we're halfway. Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
So
So-
that is the latter part of it. So
Yeah, technically.
yeah, wow, crazy. I guess now that I think about it, I remember years and years and years ago getting the PS5 on release day and it being like this wild thing that I got. So
Yeah, we both went to Best Buy when they opened up at like what, 6 a.m. or whatever.
I think it was earlier. I think it was a
Did we
midnight
go
thing.
Did we go at midnight?
Yeah, it was
Got the
crazy.
PS5.
But yeah, that's interesting to see Xbox do. Sony making full-on consoles, I think, is the risk now. Microsoft going streaming, I think, can be successful if they learn how to do it right. Nintendo making their consoles handheld capable
Yes.
is brilliant. That's incredible on their part. Sony just continuing to make the traditional console, I think, is going to be the
I
risky
mean,
one
really,
now.
it's just three different companies doing three different things, each having a niche.
But do
where-
people want console? I guess the purchase of the PS5 shows yes, people do want consoles still.
Yes, and also if you make a dedicated place, you can they will be able to produce a much more powerful console.
Yeah.
If Xbox doesn't have their own dedicated thing, then they have to produce games that will be able to work on the average machine, whatever that might be,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not going to be nearly as powerful as the PS6 could be.
That makes sense.
So PS5 will move into the like high-powered, like super high-end graphics realm, which they already are in with like Last of Us 2 and stuff. But so
Man.
they'll take that niche. Nintendo's going to be the more family-oriented. Xbox is going to be the hey, everybody can play. It's just not going to be as it's pro gamer,
Right.
graphics heavy stuff.
PS5 will be for the pro gamers.
Right, pro
the
capital G gamers.
yeah. You know what just came into my brain thinking about 2020 and console releases? Remember when people
Doom.
were blowing their vape smoke into the Xbox and then taking pictures and saying that it was like smoking and failing, and
I don't
Xbox
remember that.
You don't remember this? And Xbox had to actually put out a tweet that said, please don't blow vape smoke into your Xbox. And it's the most Xbox thing on the planet. Like, it's like, if you want to describe Xbox
Oh, man.
players in a single tweet, that was it. Please don't blow vape smoke into your Xbox.
Please keep your extra chunky cotton out of the console.
Oh man, yeah, like it was a thing where people were like, "Oh no, the Xboxes are failing. Look at all these pictures of them smoking, like of them like smoke coming out of them." And it just turned out that people were taking big old rips of their vape thing. I don't know. I don't vape, but
Rigs?
they're rigs, sure. And then blowing it directly into the intake.
Cool.
And so it was pumping out of the vents. And yeah.
What a cool time to be alive.
What a cool time to be alive. Anyway, hey, should we actually podcast?
I think so.
Let's get down to the nerdy gritty. So you sent me this article. You go for it.
Yeah, so let's talk about this. So let's get the context, and then we'll get into the wider
Yeah.
conversation we want to have. But it has been recently announced that the Funimation, I don't know if it's Funimation as an organization or if it's like a streaming service they have. But Funimation is a anime company, so I mean, Dragon Ball Z is produced by Funimation. I don't know if they've produced the anime or if they just like
Own it.
the rights
The rights to,
produce
yeah.
the video or whatever. But either way, their online streaming service, at least their online streaming service, is shutting down. Meaning that people who use Funimation are being moved over to Crunchyroll. Because I believe Crunchyroll is purchasing Funimation. If that's
Right.
not what it- Yes. So everything. So basically, they're just condensing.
Yeah.
If you use Funimation, you're now using Crunchyroll. The first problem people have with this is that they haven't specified necessarily how much more it will cost, but it will cost more on a monthly basis. Like your subscription fee will go up. And the other major problem that people have is that if you owned, so if say you bought a DVD copy of Dragon Ball Heroes, no, Dragon Ball Superheroes, that movie that came out like last year, if you buy like a physical copy, you
Not
buy-
physical.
No, what I'm saying is, if you buy a physical copy, you also get a digital copy with it.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can also buy
Yeah.
the digital copy in addition, but you
Yeah.
get if you have a digital copy of the movie or whatever it is, you no longer will have that. Crunchyroll has stated that they don't support those things. Like they don't have the ability, I suppose, to support these copies of. So essentially, your owned digital copies of these movies will just disappear. That data will be lost. You will no longer own the thing you paid for, whether it was an additional copy of a physical, of a DVD you bought, or if it was just a digital version. And obviously, unsurprisingly, people are very upset.
Yeah.
This is just stuff they owned and is just disappearing because of a corporate merger, which is, I mean, there's always been the risk of this. It's absolutely true that on Steam, you don't actually technically own a copy of the game you own. You own the ability to play that game
Right.
indefinitely. One would assume as long as it exists. And it's just, as far as I know, never been the case where Steam hasn't shut down. Valve didn't shutter, whatever. This seems to be the first big case of a company saying, "Nope, sorry, bye. You don't actually own that. You should have read section G, subsection F, paragraph 3, sentence 4 that said in the user and user license agreement that said you don't actually own that. This is on you." And so people are frustrated. What we want to talk about today is how should digital content be approached, be treated in the future in an increasingly digitized world. How should it be approached? So let's get into it. Steve, you have any thoughts?
Yeah. My knee-jerk reaction, and especially because the article that you sent and as we were reading was, to be honest, what is the article from?
The one I sent you, I'm not entirely possible.
It's not entirely possible. We don't know.
I'm not entirely possible. Just so you know.
But it was
Forbes. It was Forbes.
Forbes. It was clearly an opinion piece and highly biased. Like very, very much an angry rant more than anything. And so my knee-jerk reaction was, yeah, this sucks. You bought something and now that company is being taken over and now that thing that you own anymore is nothing, is absolutely nothing. And you have to either rebuy or do whatever. And then I thought about it. And this isn't a perfect argument, but it still occurred to me that I have bought The Lord of the Rings, I think 3 times. I think I had... Did I own it on VHS? No. This is what it was. It's 3 times, yes. The first time was just the original regular old DVDs. The theater release DVDs, I owned them. I have since gotten rid of them. Then the special editions came out, and the extended editions, and I bought them. Then the Blu-ray came out with each had like a half an hour more of special features, and so I bought the Blu-rays of them.
Right.
When the Blu-rays came out, if I remember correctly, there were also HD DVDs of them. HD DVD
And remember, that was the thing.
went nowhere, right? It flopped pretty fast along with the Xbox 360. Not that the Xbox 360 flopped. It was a partner to the Xbox 360, but because you had to buy it separately, whereas the PS3 came with it built in, it was a big struggle.
The PS3 supported the Blu-ray that
Right. So
that's where we are now.
all this to say that if you bought it on HD DVD, you have a block of nothing now. You have something that, unless you still want to fire up your old HD DVD player, it's nothing.
We all own one of those.
And for me, I don't use any of those anymore because the extended editions are streaming. And I can and have watched them streaming. And therefore, I'm not paying for them again, but it's part of my streaming feed. Like, all this to say that as things age and as digital rights to things switch from company to company or to format, we are already used to rebuying the same thing over and over again. What makes this different?
Because every time you bought a new copy, it was because you wanted to. You chose to. You could have kept an HD DVD player and kept your HD DVDs and played them on there. Sure, it would have been outdated by technology standards, but you still would have had the ability. You still could have done it. Nobody has the choice to say no, thank you. In this situation, I'd rather stay with this thing that I purchased already. Nobody has the choice to do that. This is a corporate merger. This is corporate shenanigans. Simply saying we are taking away the thing you spent money on. Good, deal with it.
Okay.
Now spend more money on a monthly basis, and you might be able to watch the thing you already owned if we have it in our library. Like, this is all around, like, A, taking away the thing you already spent money on. B, forcing you, if you're going to continue, not forcing you because you could choose not to, but if you want to keep that subscription, to pay more for the subscription, and then also still maybe not being able to watch it because they don't even have it, which is not something you get to choose either.
No, that's a very fair point. Making the point that if you had a VHS player, a VCR, you could still plug in your VCR, find your coaxial cable to plug that into the back of your TV, and watch those old VHS if you want. They're outdated, and nobody makes them anymore, and the format isn't supported by anybody anymore, but you still have the ability if you want it.
They're still usable.
They have taken away the ability altogether. They have destroyed your ability, and now they're trying to resell it to you. Man, that sucks.
Yes, they have taken away your ability to use the thing you own, and they could see, oh, that's okay. You could just buy it again, or pay more money to watch it on our streaming service instead. There's not really any. It's like 100% against the consumers. It's anti-consumer.
It is, man. I'm trying to think of I'm saying there's got to be some sort of equivalent that we can compare this to. Like, what if this was physical stuff? What would be the comparison to this? But in reality, as I'm thinking, the closest comparison would be them coming into your home, taking that thing away from you, and then setting up a stand outside of your house that says DVDs for sale.
some kind of fundamental like power, the electricity setup in your home no longer supports, it's I don't know. There's some kind of thing where you don't have a choice in the process, and or everything you already own is no longer usable because of really at the end of the day it's because you don't have any power in the situation.
Right.
And the companies have Crunchyroll has nothing to say except for we wanted more money,
Yeah.
so we bought this thing. Like it's literally just a corporate merger, corporate buyout that is affecting the people who like they hadn't they didn't get together and say, hey, everybody who has a stake, who owns something on this thing, what do you think about this? They said they looked at their books. They said we're going to get some negative blowback, but ultimately we think the bottom line will be improved by this purchase. And they said that's all that matters to us. Cool, we're good. Let's do it.
I wonder, because here's the truth, and it still sucks, but it's not wrong. All of that stuff has the EULA, the end user license agreement, and I guarantee you somewhere in there it said something like we were talking about before.
Sure.
You have purchased the right to watch this with Funimation. Now Funimation no longer exists. They're not doing anything wrong per se. Like,
legally speaking?
Yeah, legally speaking, they're not breaking any rules, doing anything else. It sucks. But man, because now I think like you could just choose not to. You can just choose to not rebuy it, but then you don't get your thing anymore. It was yours.
Right.
But it also wasn't yours. Like at the end of the day, what this really just reeks of is it feels lawful evil, right? It is absolutely lawful and exactly within the rules, and it's money making for them and sucks for everybody else. It's Sheriff of Nottingham, Prince John, lawful evil, hot garbage, and
they're morally wrong, but ethically in the clear.
Right, man. Okay, so let's
hold on. Before we get into, we want to talk about the future of digital media, and we can talk about that.
Right.
Let me posit this to you. I would say, morally speaking, this is a situation in which piracy is somewhat justified.
That's exactly what I was going to ask it next is, and it's somebody in the chat brought up is, so let's talk about piracy then. This is a point in which, again, let's go with my metaphor before of somebody walks into your house, they take your DVDs off the shelf, they walk back out, and they set up a stand outside that says DVDs for sale. If you walk back out there and you take their stuff without buying it and put it back into your house, have you stolen it? Or have you just retrieved the thing that belongs to you? Like,
right. Is it stealing if it was stolen from you?
Right.
I would say no.
And so,
I would say no.
Ooh. This is a Robin Hood moment now, right? Like stealing from the rich to give back to you in a way. Because
the question is, I would say, like the warning sign of this is, hey, anything you ever purchase digitally, if it's a video of some kind, create a like download it somehow, or if you have screen capture, just watch it and capture the entire thing while you're watching it, and then put that file on a hard drive somewhere. It would be illegal for you to sell that, but would it? I don't know about the legality of just owning an actual file version, downloaded file of it, if you legally purchased it. To me, that's like, oh, well, yeah, now we should do that with everything we ever own, because I want to still watch it, the thing that I purchased, if this happens again. But I'm not really sure if that's in the like. I mean, how would they ever? Nobody would ever actually know if if it's just a file on a hard drive somewhere.
Right.
But like, yeah, to me, I think this does justify some kind of Look, I purchased it. You took it away from me. I'm just getting the thing that I purchased back.
Right. And overall, because overall, I am anti-piracy. Like as
Sure.
a general rule,
Sure.
I think that people deserve to be paid for the media they create, and they have earned. If they have made something and they want to charge $100 for it, and it's an exorbitant price, that's their. They
That's their
can do that if they
prerogative.
want. Yeah, their
But that
prerogative.
does not justify. I have talked to people who have said if it's on the internet, it's now free game for everybody.
And I say
And
I
I
strongly
highly
disagree.
disagree.
Strongly
Uh,
disagree with that. Yeah. So, but this is like one of those rare cases that I'm like, and so okay. So this would require you to be a highly moral person, because if you decide to flip that switch and say, you know what, I'm comfortable with piracy in this case, and you re-download, you go to a torrent site or whatever it is, and you re-download all the things that you had purchased before, but then there's the new movie that just
there's a
dropped.
100 new things that just came out that you could also add to cart.
Right. And all you have to do is once that old one's done downloading, you just click download on the
Yeah,
next
be
one.
the next one. Sure, obviously. I mean, but that by the definition we're creating here, that would then just be stealing. Like that's
Right.
just theft. You didn't actually own that, and you could say, well, it's justified because of bad. It's the idea of two wrongs making a right kind of thing. Like, well, this company did a bad thing, so I'm going to do a bad thing against them, and therefore, I don't. I mean, you could make that argument. It doesn't hold water for me. Uh, but yes, I would say that this is a situation in which you are perfectly justified in just no. I guess I'll go find it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Or I'll just
Man.
rip it off the DVD, or just download a copy of the file that I already owned
I
somehow.
wonder if Crunchyroll will gain or lose subscribers with this.
I think by the nature of like they are just by market share gain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we learned, was it last time, that they are currently fourth in the streaming service races behind Netflix, Amazon, and Hulu,
Right.
which means they were already the number one anime, like specific
Anime
streaming
exclusive.
site.
Yeah.
Right. So I think they're already just going to have a, if half the people that are being forced to migrate over decide not to, well, they just gained half of those people. Like if I mean, I think it could only be a positive gain at this point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
People on, I mean, unless you have a significant number of people who are using Crunchyroll already and say we don't like that and decide to just cancel altogether. I don't really see that being a significant portion of their user base.
So let's talk about Steam real quick then, because you made this correlation. Let's say Steam, for whatever, fizzles, and Microsoft buys it up like they have done with a bunch of things already, and they do the same thing. They say, "Hey, just so you know, you were licensing your games through Steam. They are now coming to Xbox Game Pass. You are welcome to these games with the Game Pass subscription." I guess I don't really have a question at the end of this. It's going to be a
No,
statement that is, why does that feel different to me? Why do I feel more comfortable with that? Is it just because I'm already subscribed to Game Pass?
oh, I mean, we would, yeah, if a lot of those games came to Game Pass, yes, we would benefit from that. So it's okay on that. No, just kidding. But here's what I think should happen: if all the best game developers out there would say, "Hey, we're not a fan of this," so everybody who has a legally obtained Steam copy of our game, we're going to send you a file of the game.
Man, that's tough because they can just copy and paste that file to as many people as they want, right?
Yeah,
Like,
but that already happens.
that's
Sure.
true. That's true.
Or we're gonna, you can play it from our site, and I don't know, that would be a big investment in, and yeah, but that would be cool. I don't see that happening for most small game developers. Couldn't really
Right.
manage that. But
I'm just saying that.
no, that would be equally bad.
Right, but it feels different to me. Why does it feel different to me? Is it
I have
just
no
because I
idea.
already? It might be just because I already have the Xbox Game
You
Pass
already have
subscription.
Game Pass, and so you just be
For
able
me,
to play more games.
it'd be a 1-to-1 thing there. So
Sure.
yeah,
But at the end of the day, it would still be the same thing as, this
right,
digital thing that you purchased at one point.
man, that's garbage. Okay,
It's a bad situation.
so let's then swap this over to digital rights ownership. Because here is why digital rights ownership works the way that it does now. And there's the big caveat of you are leasing this game, you don't own this game. Because when you purchase a disc of a game as you have it in your hand, because you own it, you are legally able to hand that to somebody else, to let them borrow it, to sell it to somebody else, give it away to somebody else, whatever you want to do. If you were to do that with a game, a digital game, and they say you now own that game, because you own it, you would have the rights to copy and paste it, give it to other people, do whatever you want to do with that digital ownership of that game. This is why we are in the place of, or the video or movie or whatever else, of, for the vast majority of these things, you are leasing the right to play this game or whatever else. So how do we handle that then? How do we balance this and not just have it suck?
Well, no, what I'm saying, okay, it still would be illegal to reproduce that thing you purchased a copy of. Like, illegal reproduction is a thing. That was a thing. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the thing of DVDs and VHSs. There's always the little warning, FBI warning or whatever.
Right,
at the
right.
beginning That
You wouldn't steal a car.
You wouldn't download a pizza. Yes, I would.
I 100% would. If you gave me the option to download a pizza right now, I haven't had lunch yet.
Man, we haven't reached the future yet because we can't do that yet. But it's like it would still be illegal to reproduce and even without making money off of it, the thing that you
distribute.
It would just be much easier.
Yeah.
And probably very difficult to prove or discover the source of. It would be harder to it would be harder to, or easier to do for the consumer, and so they don't want that, and so yes, it's now that you're leasing it rather than.
Let me rephrase my question then.
Yeah.
How do we protect both the creator and the consumer? How do we make sure that we are not just giving you the file and then trusting you with it, because it has been proven time and time again still that a lot of consumers cannot be trusted with that.
Sure.
But at the same time, protecting the consumer without letting things like this happen. What's the balance here? What's the middle ground?
I mean, you obviously have the ability, the route of legal regulation. Any kind of end user license agreement has to have a caveat that if company ownership changes, whatever, that basically some way to establish that this can even if we continue in a you own the right to use this, you don't actually own it, that there will never lose that ability, that the person who is producing the content has to maintain that availability indefinitely.
Yeah.
And if that's no longer feasible, then they are fined or whatever, XYZ consequence happens. That's one option. The other, another option is, hey, seller beware, buyer beware. That's just kind of how it goes.
But they have that right now in a giant EULA that nobody uses or nobody reads.
Sure. I understand that, but this is another route where it, at the end of the day, really what we're asking for is moral shifts, and companies not being okay with potential loss of money, or not loss of money, but less than when somebody copies a game and sells it, gives it to somebody else, that company didn't technically lose money. They just aren't going to get the money that they could have gotten.
Right.
It's a distinction there, but it does exist. Uh, and so just like we are at the end of the day, what we are wanting is a shift in the moral code, both of the consumer and the producer.
There was a Penny Arcade comic a billion years ago about DRM and how DRM exists the way that it did because it was a fight between greedy corporations and thieves, and everybody in the middle suffered for it. All the normal folks who just wanted to buy a game and play it suffered for it because you needed a code wheel and a dongle to play a game. You know what I mean? Like, those aren't jokes. Like, those are real things that were required of you. There were literal ciphers that you had to go through to be able to play these games. And because it was a fight between corporations who wanted to make sure they were getting every penny that they thought they deserved, as well as thieves who thought that they could, just distribute this or whatever else. And so I feel like we're in a similar situation here where we're fighting a fight, or we're bystanders in a fight between pirates and greedy corporations. And it sucks because then we get stuck in the middle of saying, can I just get this thing and watch it? Can I just buy it and now I have a digital copy of it and that's mine to have?
Right. In this situation, the only people suffering are the people in the middle. Pirates, it doesn't matter. They just pirate it. They
Right.
didn't pay for it anyway. They're, whatever. The corporation only stands to gain money. Like, it's not like they're going to lose any, they're not going to net lose any money here. Maybe they'll have a few less followers or subscribers, but they're going to gain a lot more than they lose. So really, it's at the end of the day, the only person suffering are the people who just want to legally purchase something and then own that something indefinitely, have access to it indefinitely because they purchased it.
So then, how do we, as average consumers, consume this and still feel fair? Like, what do we do in this place as normal consumers who don't want to be pirates, who would really like,
Not that kind of pirate.
Yeah, who don't want to be that kind of pirate. We would all love to be Jack Sparrow.
Sure.
But who we, especially you and I as devout Christians want to make sure that we are doing the, Christ-like thing and making sure that we are being wise with our finances as well as fair in our finances and whatnot. But at the same time, being wise consumers. Like, what do we do?
Let's get this out of the way. It's not going to be satisfying to hear, but it is true. I have a digital Xbox and a digital PlayStation 5. Lots of games on them that are only digital, that if this were to happen to either Microsoft or Sony, I would lose out. I would not have those games anymore. For sure. At the end of the day, I will be okay.
Yeah.
My self-worth will not go down. I will be upset. I will feel, it would be an injustice against me, but at the end of the day, I'll be fine. I won't be able to play God of War as easily as I was able to before. It will be another cost to me to play God of War Ragnarok again. But let's just say that out there. It's okay. If we lose these digital copies, they are not key to our lives. They are not key to our survival or existence.
It's not food or water or shelter.
They might be important to us. It might be emotionally resonant. They might be very valuable. I get that. I'm not trying to downplay the value of these, stories that we read or, are playing through or watching or whatever. 100%. I love it. Just saying that it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
There are worse things to happen. And so we can rage and rage about it, but at the end of the day, we'll be okay. Now, let's move on.
Yes.
Let's all accept that. Let's all agree to that and move on. This is a pretty good argument for the continued consumption of physical media.
Which is this is, I mean, I know it's becoming rarer and rarer today, but whenever the opportunity presents itself, I'm still a physical media guy.
Yes, I mean I completely understand that. I just have too much stuff and wanted to reduce. I wasn't going to stop buying video games, so I wanted to reduce the amount of physical stuff in my house. And so I decided to, and plus the price, the difference for the digital PS5 was attractive to me. So
Yeah.
anyway, but I do completely understand for this exact reason why it's very nice, including also just lending a game to somebody else to borrow it,
Yeah.
kind of thing is very nice. Like I recently talked to somebody who was considering buying a PS5, and I was like, "Well, I don't have any games you could borrow, but I have a friend who."
But Steve does. You can have his games.
There was some kind of failure of communication there because I was simply suggesting you might be able to borrow something from Steve. He has a physical PS5, a disc PS5.
This mutual friend came to me later and was like, "Hey, Kyle's offering me your games."
I don't think he understands the basically shared library.
I think we're all joking and teasing you for it.
Yes.
But yes, yeah.
But also, I'm very offended. So anyway, this is a pretty good argument. It makes sense. This is just physical media should exist in some capacity. It would be great if it were less cumbersome and more environmentally sound to continue to produce physical media to combat this problem.
Did I give you Death Stranding on the PS5?
On the PS4.
Oh, okay, good. I knew we bought Death Stranding and I
PS4
gave it to you, and I was like, wait, is it a PS5 game? Because you have a digital PS5 and
No,
that's
I
nothing.
don't.
Okay, sorry. That was my little non sequitur that my brain just hit in that
I
moment.
was gonna text later.
Yeah, I would have forgotten. I'm going to forget this conversation in 30 seconds as it is. But okay, so to kind of tie this up then, as far as what I'm thinking here, I know that I've been mostly the question asker here because this is honestly and truly, this is a morally ambiguous, I got there, morally ambiguous, difficult thing for me. It is something where I have always been somebody who disagrees with piracy in general. I think that artists deserve to be paid for their art, and just it's something that's really important to me. But this is a situation in which a third party has stolen something that you basically owned and is now trying to resell it to you. And that really, really sucks. Overall, I think you already said it. This is something that each person's going to have to wrestle with morally and financially and see where they can and are willing to bend whatever things here and there. At the end of the day, if this were me, I don't know what I would do. It's not me, so I don't have to make that decision. I don't know what I'd do in this case. That's really, really crappy. But at the end of the day, here's what I will say. I probably wasn't going to anytime soon anyway. Now it's a pretty solid, I have no intention of supporting Crunchyroll because this sucks and that's garbage.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's easier to say when you probably weren't going to do it anyway.
Right.
Yeah, impassioned stance on something that didn't matter
Right,
to you 5
right.
seconds ago. But yeah, I mean, we say it probably 70% of the time when we talk about stuff on this podcast.
Vote with your wallet.
Vote with your wallet. That is the bottom line is what matters to companies most. Clearly not the consumer's well-being or, desires. So, it might be a fraction of a drop in a massive bucket, but say, unsubscribe and send them an email and say, hey, here's why I did this. Maybe they won't even get read, but it's something. And if more people do it, send them a tweet. Be kind. Don't be a terrible person.
Yeah.
This doesn't justify harassment or abuse. But just say, hey, this is what I did and this is why. So, if you decide to change things, I might come back.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's just it's a transactional thing. It's just kind of how it works. They can't expect you to stay on, because you already did. That's, they have to earn your money. And so don't give it to them if they haven't.
Yep. Yeah. It's tough, but no, that's fair. So overall, Crunchyroll, you suck. Okay. Hey,
Bad job.
Bad job, Crunchyroll. Fox, what have you been up to, my friend?
Oh, I have been playing. You remember a while? It was like a couple weeks ago where I was like, "Hey, Steve, tell me I don't have to buy this game."
You bought it, didn't you? Fox.
The game is a Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, which is just a great JRPG title that means nothing to you if you don't have any idea what's going on, and it only kind of makes sense to me even after playing it. But anyway, I've been playing it. It's an incredibly good game. It is. You remember when Tales of Arise came out and it was like, whoa, surprisingly cool, great action RPG. This is like that, but a little better. Where the combat is more fluid and more fun, and I mean it's repetitive if you want it to be, but you can change it up with all these different characters you can play as. But one of the big ways in which it shines is that the story is very succinct. It's very JRPG still. It's right in the realm of a JRPG story, but it's 15 hours, which in this realm is pretty short.
Yeah.
And it's very nice. It's very nice to just like play through this thing and not feel like there's any filler or just nonsense on there. And so it's really nice, like, because it makes me want to play more, because once you beat the game, there is a considerable amount of like end game content. Do you remember when we talked about like gacha games, and I talked about the idea that if you released a $60 game that had gacha elements to it but didn't require me to spend money on it additionally, I would be all about that.
Is that this?
This is that. Like, this is maybe the best example of that. There's no gacha element to it, aside from like maybe the drops you get from some. Actually, no. It tells you exactly what you'll get. You just have to be, the better you do at a mission in the end game, like the more stuff you'll get. But there's no actual gacha element, but it has a lot of like gacha game elements to it, where it's like you start off the game with 6 characters, but by the you can then unlock another like 12 or 13. There are lots of ways to upgrade weapons and awaken your weapons and all those dumb things that the mobile games will charge you for 15 different types of currency. They just put those in the game and it's still fun to do. You just don't have to keep paying money for it. And so I just really appreciate how they translated, because Grand Blue Fantasy was a mobile gacha game. It was like Japan only, and I really appreciate how they translated it into a one-time $60 full game, and I'm really glad it's found a lot of success.
Nice.
I hope they keep going.
Yeah,
it's really great.
Very cool, very cool. I started reading a book called Tell Her Story by Nijay Gupta. It is a nonfiction book about the women.
On the Holy Post this week.
Yeah, he's on the Holy Post this week. I actually went and got to see a live Holy Post thing, and he was there. He lives here in Portland area, so
gotcha. That makes sense.
But it is a book that is a look at the women within the Bible that led and taught and had authority. And in the preface, his whole thing is like, I am not going to show you something and then talk about if you look at it this way, and if you then kind of squint your eyes, and then if you do, this and whatever, then you can get to the conclusion that he says, I'm going to just point at something that's always been there, but I guarantee you've never really learned or thought about before or looked at it in this way before. And I am like probably a third of the way into the book, and already right off the bat, like he went over Deborah. And they talk about Deborah, and he's like, Deborah was a judge. That means that she was a leader of the Israelites at a time, like straightforward right there. Yeah. But not only that, he said, as you can see, every judge mentioned in scripture had something negative said about them, except for Deborah. In fact, Deborah has at one point like an entire song in Judges sung about how great her leadership was. And it includes her and her general that she commanded, who was a man. Literally, there's like this song about her and this man that she had authority over, and what a good job that they did together. And it was like this. And again, I went and I read it, and I'm like, I must have read this 30 times and never actually
Never really think about
have
it.
seen it that way before. And he's like, and that's exactly what he's saying. He's like, I'm not trying to change your perspective on things. I'm trying to point to you what's always been there, but you have just glanced over because nobody's ever taught it. Nobody's ever pointed at it, whatever else. And it is really well written. It's really fascinating. I'm really enjoying it so far. So yeah, that's Tell Her Story by Nijay Gupta.
I'm reading. It was basically the Multnomah County Library has a Everybody Reads program where it's just, hey, as many people as possible should read this book, and then we're gonna have the author come do a discussion about it at a certain thing. It's called Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow.
I heard about
Is
this.
the title of the book. It's by Gabrielle's. Let me get it correct.
Somebody was recommending this to me recently, and I can't remember who or why.
So the concept of the book is, at the core, it is about a group of friends. It's Gabrielle Zevin. It's a group of friends, mainly two friends, Sam and Sadie, who meet each other at 12 years old, and it's kind of about their life for the next 20 years and the ways they interact with each other. The main way they stay in each other's lives is that they start a video game development company. They are developers. They go to MIT. They develop a game. It gets huge success. They're able to start, these things. I don't want to spoil it. So essentially, it's through the lens, like this is the setting, video game company, stuff like that. But it's really about these characters and how their lives intertwine and interact, and the fights they have, and all these things that go on. It's a really well I like the whole video game development part of it because I know about that world, and when
Right.
they reference video games, I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes sense, and I know about what you're talking about. But at the end of the day, what I love about it is just the biggest moments are oh, and then they did this thing, or you learn that this person knew about this thing, and you're like, oh, the relationship aspect, the character development aspect is what keeps me coming back to it. Because developing games and stuff like that is cool, but it's not really the point of the book.
Right.
And so I do recommend it. It's a really fun read. That I also appreciate about it is that it isn't overly dramatic. It spreads the story across a couple of decades. Oh, my boy's awake, so we got limited time here.
Yep.
But it spreads the story over a couple decades, so it feels like it doesn't need to just cram a bunch of drama in a 2-month period, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It can just say no. The long we're gonna look at these the problems that these characters have and how they face them and how they overcome them and how they forgive each other and fight and all this, just like how people do in real life. It takes a long view of their lives, and it really helps it feel realistic and grounded. And so when somebody is upset about something, you get to see the seeds of that happening over 15 years. You're like, oh, this kind of actually started way back. So it just feels very natural.
Yeah.
And you feel like they're actual people because you understand all of their decisions and all of their frustrations, because they're not just things you were just told 5 minutes ago. You actually saw the start of that a long time ago. So it's really nice.
I
I
watched
would recommend it for sure.
Wonka, the movie, and do you need to go get him?
No, yeah. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah, go get him and bring him back.
You can talk.
Okay, I'll talk.
I won't put him on the internet, but
Okay, yeah, that whatever you need to do, that's fine. I watched Wonka, and I have to say it was
you okay?
okay.
All right. Hold on 1 second.
It was fine. It was a beautiful movie overall, and it was. I was just saying,
back.
I watched Wonka, and it was okay. It was a really beautiful movie, really well made as far as direction and design and whatnot. The story was wildly generic. The songs,
We're gonna
yeah,
survive, overcome.
we're gonna overcome the bad guy.
through
this-
friendship and joy and love.
The songs were pretty good. They're pretty good songs. I enjoyed them, but mostly didn't have a purpose in the musical. They didn't add anything to it overall.
The Greatest Showman problem.
Yeah. And yeah, I would say Greatest Showman did it better than Wonka.
Oh, okay.
Like, at least the things in The Greatest Showman expressed their heavy emotions, or were ways that they expressed their confusion, or ways that they showed that they had to grow, or something like that. Whereas in Wonka, they're just kind of thinking about how happy they are, or about what this candy is. And that's kind of it. There's zero character growth. There are no character arcs in this movie. And that was what I struggled with the most. There's not a single person that arcs in any way, shape, or form in this. So, yeah,
Just
overall,
flatline.
I if you want to watch it, wait till it streams. I really would say, and if you skip this one, you're probably okay. In my opinion, yeah.
Well, I wasn't gonna watch it anyway, so I'll take a passion stance against it.
There you go. Enjoy.
All right. Well, that's all I've got.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm reading Murtaugh, the newest book in the Inheritance cycle.
Yeah.
It's good, and I'm enjoying it. My struggle is I'm 300 pages into the book, into like 600-page book, so about halfway, and the Thorn the Dragon has done nothing. He's pretty much been the voice in Murtaugh's head the whole time, but other than that, he doesn't do anything, and I'm a little disappointed in that.
That's weird.
But, yeah. Okay, we got to go. You got to go take care of your son. Thank you for listening, everybody. We appreciate you. Big thank you to Granger for the use of our theme song. All my friends have Wi-Fi, and so do most of my neighbors have the album Dear Sam. Thank you very much, Granger.
Yep. Hey, thanks for watching. You can support Save Point Ministries and by extension the Nerdy Gritty by subscribing on Twitch, or you can head to SavePointMinistries.com and subscribe there. Donate there. But also, if you can't do that, we completely understand. Just being here and being a part of the conversation. Maybe you can join our Discord. Would be a fun way to do it. Also, we've got some plans for this year that we're really excited about. Looking forward to continuing to stream and maybe do more than that too. So thank you for your support.
Thank you again, guys, and always remember that save games, save lives. See you later.
Bye.
My voice sings all night, and this is what my heart sounds like. Is what my heart sounds like.
Oh, hey everybody. You can see me right now doing all this stuff. That just occurred to me here. Hey, Fox had to take off to take care of his boy, obviously. And I am going to hang out and go through the chat here real quick. We got, looks like mostly G Creature. What's up, man? Had a lot of good things to say, though. So you can give friends now. Yeah. That's why piracy is on the rise again. It really is. And then there's a struggle within all of this that is piracy is very much on the rise, and some places have earned that, like Crunchyroll has earned that, but there are other people that haven't, and it's tough, man. So Robin Hood steals from the rich, gives to the poor. Poor, thanks, Robin Hood, we're rich. What? Say I pirate because I'm not legally allowed to purchase things even if I wanted to. They won't take my money. Oopsie daisy, I guess. And that makes perfect sense to me. Like if you are unable to buy this thing, like if that's your only option, that makes sense to me. It does. Again, it's tough and it's morally ambiguous, but I can understand. Let's see. Oh, Steam has a failsafe for that. All right, cool. Creators are already protected by the contracts when where their pay is secured. They get paid a salary like everyone else. That is true for the individuals. Overall, though, so if your show goes on Netflix, you get paid per view, per person who watches it, which is why when Netflix is played a lot of times in a row, it stops and it says, hey, are you actually still there watching? Because it wants to make sure that you're not just streaming and, people are making money for no reason at all. You want to make sure you're actually watching this stuff. So when it comes to digital stuff, it's tough. Like, people don't just get normal salaries. They do, but also that salary comes from a company who makes money off of that product by the amount of times it's watched on stream. So if somebody pirates it, and watches it not on stream, that company doesn't get the money, and therefore those salaries don't get paid. So there is definitely a watch it on stream reason there. EULAs are legally non-binding. Yeah, that's true. They're non-binding for some things, but it is legally binding in as much as they can choose to just take it away from you, which in the worst way it works. Pirates are providing better service to the company. So it's no surprise companies are fighting a losing battle. And like, especially when you think about it that way, if you just come for it from a consumer standpoint, again, it does make sense for sure. I have the power to pirate and keep it so they can try and stop. Right. Yeah. It's tough. The whole thing, man. Yeah. Cool. Well, hey, I'm going to head out and take my wife out to lunch for Valentine's Day. One more time, you can jump in our Discord. Looking for a home church, you can try and find home church in there. Overall, we want to let you know that you are loved and you are seen by Jesus. You are an incredible human that has value in the kingdom of God. And we want to show you that value in a physical community within the church, but also in our community in the Discord, whatever else. We love you guys. Happy Valentine's Day. We're so thankful that each and every one of you, or we're so, no, what is it? It's the same sign off every time. We love that each and every one of you were here today, but always remember there's a church out there that'll love it if you were there. See you next time, guys. Bye.